Hello, YouTube. Hello. All right, we got YouTube. Excellent. All right, TikTok, and then we are set. TikTok's being evil again, I see. Well, a little bit better on the last post, still not being great. All right, 1 sec here. One sec. Oop. Putin? How about Putin? There we go. All right. Almost there. Hello, guys. I just ate, so now my nose is running. I like snarfed down something really fast. Those little pupusas or whatever they are from Trader Joe's that are really good. They're like meat-filled potatoes. Very good. Slice that lemon? What the heck? Let's do slice that lemon, baby. All right. Let's do slice that lemon. All right. Go live. There we go. Woof. Yeah. All right. There we go. Mirror, boom, and boom. All righty. Welcome, everybody. Hello, all. I'm not getting sick. Oh, no, sick. Oh, you mean with this? No. This, I literally just ate, and I'm having like allergy news from eating warm food, I guess. Yeah, no, definitely not. I haven't gotten sick in a while. Knock on wood. I mean, I get lots of things like my damn finger, but like cold and flu stuff, not that often. Again, knock on wood. Anyway, oh, hey, Val. Anyway, welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Actually, the balloons, those balloons Callum got me for hitting 800,000 followers. They're 800. Actually, I can show you guys. The gold balloons are an 8, a 0, and a 0. And the funniest damn thing was I opened it and I was like, 800. That number sounds familiar. And I couldn't, the mic isn't plugged in. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was. I hadn't opened, he left a note. I hadn't opened the note yet from him and Angelica and the baby. And then I was like, oh, okay, duh. But it was very fun. I was being a little blonde for the moment, a Greek blonde for the moment there. I was like, 800, what is that about? Well, the worst part was the number was familiar. I was like, that number's familiar, 800. It's like, okay, you think, Dodo? Anyway, welcome everybody. Woo! Oh man, new freezers. New freezer. I finally bought the new freezer. I think I told you I didn't have a choice. So new freezer is coming on Thursday. A little nervous, but what do you do? You know, so it is what it is. I did my research. They all suck. Everybody hates all. You know how it is. Everybody hates all of the freezers. The fridge. I say freezer, meaning fridge, freezer, but everybody hates all of them. So what do you do? But at least it's coming, and I won't die of botulism or whatever. So yep, I am on TikTok, Danny. Anyway, so yes, didn't you just buy one? No, I held off. My fridge was being evil last year. Then it started stabilizing, so I kept it for a year, and then it went evil again. Or basically, it was a couple degrees too high, which is a little scary. So I was like, okay, that's not good. So I finally bit. It's 19 years old, so it's or even 20 years old. It's had a good life for a refrigerator. I'll give it credit for that. But anyway, so welcome everybody. John Aravosis here. Talking about the latest news from Washington and from Ukraine. We've got an okay amount of news today. A lot of it's just bad. I mean, you know how. Folks, we live in troubled times. I may have to like, or maybe you guys can help me, like do a special effort to find good news. You know what I mean? Like just like a good story each day. And maybe Callum, maybe you can help me find that. Because there's just too much bad news. I mean, we got to keep up on it, but it's just like, ooh boy, not good bad news. But yes, so I'm very excited. Refrigerator is coming on Thursday. I bought the extra warranty because it's Costco, and I was like, you know what, 5-year warranty, considering how bad fridges are, even though warranties suck too. Anyway, what do you do? Enough about the fridge. But Damien's coming to help me do that, so that'll be nice. Taylor? Who's Taylor? Taylor Swift? What did she do? All right, let's get rolling here. Anyway, welcome, guys. I'm going to start with the Trump news, then we'll move over to some of the Ukraine news. What else? That's kind of it. I hit you up for the gifts. You know that. Who cares? Well, Rob, you're kind of in trouble. If you came to a show that specifically is about the news and you don't care about the news, you might be in the wrong format. That's you've got to be the worst troll ever. But I mean, worst as in you're not doing a good job. That's not a very trolly thing to say, right? Like, who cares about the news? Ooh, biting commentary from our trolls today. Who cares? Anyway, thank you, Russell. Thank you, Jaime. Thank you, James, for the gifts. Thank you, Adventures. Anyway, so yes, please keep the gifts coming, guys. I do this for a living. Your gifts pay the bills. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know, so riveting. But I love that. You've come to, and it actually reminds me of, we would get a couple different times the trolls early on who'd be like, you talk too much. And I'm like, well, thank you, Night Owl. Thank you, Hannah. I'm like, this is TikTok, kind of like YouTube, where, like it's video. And if I don't talk, then I'm a mime. And I guess I could do a mime show, but then it would be a mime show. So not quite the criticism that's stinging. You talk too much on a video show. It's like, okay. That's like saying the nightly news, the water show. Exactly. The nightly news. The problem with the nightly news is they have too many words. That's the problem with CNN. Anyway, but no, that one did crack me out. No, that one's come a couple times. You talk too much. Well, it's kind of a job requirement. I do talk too much, by the way, if you know me personally, but it's kind of a job requirement for the show. So there's not a lot we can do. Hey, Estic. Anyway, all right, let's get rolling here. So Trump has put the DC police under the, under the rule of the Drug Enforcement Agency's administrator. Kind of funny. So thank you. Oh, thank you, Kathy. That was a very generous gift of you. You may know that Trump is trying to deflect from, well, he's doing a couple things. He's trying to deflect from Epstein. Also, he's not a nice man. So he's doing bad things because that's what he does. But also he's trying to deflect from Epstein. And one of the things he's doing is like nationalizing the police force in Washington for the next month because there's so much crime in Washington, except there isn't. Thank you, Antelope. Thank you, Fallen. As I said before, and I'll repeat it, Washington has always had a lot of, I live in Washington, D.C. I've been here 40 years, sadly. 2 of the years were in New York City. Yay. But the rest of it was here. Boo. Washington has always had a lot of crime. But the last several years, we are not even top 10 of violent crime in America. We're like, I forget if we're 14 or something like that. We're not. And things are getting much better. So like, there's literally no reason for Trump to this month say, oh my God, crime's out of control. There's no reason. Crime is actually better. And actually, the even funny thing, I don't know if you noticed during his press conference he gave, Kash Patel, who's the lunatic that he picked to be FBI director. He's the crazy MAGA activist guy. And Patel gets up there and goes, violent crime, was it murder or violent crime, is down precipitously. What was it? Historic levels of decrease in crime in DC while we're here. And it was like, you're at a press conference announcing that you're basically declaring martial law in Washington, D.C. because the crime is so bad. And your head of the FBI just got up there and said, actually, crime is not bad. It's actually historically low. So which one is it, right? I mean, Kash has some issues, clearly. In any case, this is what was funny. So Trump announces today that the DC police force is going to be under the control of the Drug Enforcement Agency head. So the media asks DC's police chief, Pamela Smith. We have a female police chief, which is very cool. They asked the DC police chief, Pamela. We've had a couple female police chiefs actually in DC. They asked the police chief, Pamela Smith, who she answers to, like, who's her boss? And she goes, I answer to Mayor Muriel Bowser, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, very interesting, actually, because police are, I don't know if you'd call police paramilitary. Is that the correct word? I think that would be a correct word to use probably for police. It's a quasi-military organization. It's a military style organization, right? In terms of the way it's, I mean, not just in terms of legalized violence or whatever, but in terms of the structure, right? Captain, sergeant, it's military-esque. I did a military adjacent. I don't, paramilitary makes it sound like they go around with hoods on like the ice guys. You know what I mean? But what I found interesting was I would not have expected the DC police chief. I expected the DC police chief to say, yes, sir. Right? If Trump says you are now by law under the command of the DEA, then she'd say, that's my boss. She goes, nope, I report to the mayor. I don't report to that guy, which I thought was absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. So the homeless thing, this is such a weird issue. Thank you, Carrie, for the universe there, the galaxy. So as you know, anybody who watches the show knows, I am not a flaming liberal. I am not a flaming conservative, that's for sure. But I'm also not a flaming liberal. That's not me. Thank you, Jess. And Trump, and honestly, Republicans generally, but Trump in particular, they're so good at taking issues where you might agree with them a little bit and then blowing it out of proportion. So like immigration, and I've talked about this. I am not a fan of people crossing the border illegally. I think that's a very bad thing that we have millions of people crossing the border illegally every year. But Trump just has to grab it and run with it and go so extreme and so radical, right? Kidnapping these people with hoods on, sending them to El Salvador, terrorist prisons. I mean, just doing stuff that's so outrageous, right? And on this, he's doing the same thing. Trump takes an issue like crime, where on the face of it, I don't like crime. I don't like criminals. As a Washington, D.C. resident, I like more police on the street. I mean, I know what he's really doing is kind of fascist, but on its face, more FBI on the street, National Guard doing police stuff. Like on its face, as a resident, you go, police on the street, not a bad thing, right? I don't want bad guys out there. But then he goes too far. Like, for example, National Guard, where you're like, okay, National Guard's kind of military. Like, I don't want military patrolling our streets doing crime fighting. That's a little weird, right? Well, today, he's going after the homeless. Now, he mentioned this before. Thank you, Big Hawk, for the gift. And I will say this. He again took an issue where there was a point and he went a million miles too far. I'm sure probably Europeans, I don't know. Americans will probably be familiar with this. What happened in DC is probably happening everywhere. A couple of years ago, some nonprofit, some NGO decided to basically buy tents for homeless people. And they basically helped the homeless set up tent cities in downtown of American cities. We had them all over Washington, D.C., especially downtown, like near the State Department. There was a park with 50 tents, 50. I mean, it was crazy. It was not acceptable. Homelessness, also not acceptable, but this is not acceptable. So in any case, so you start with that, where this tent city thing, not cool. Trump has basically outlawed homelessness this weekend. And it's like, well, I don't think you can quite do that, right? I don't think we should have tent cities of homelessness in our middle of our town. That's a bit much, but you're just going to ban them? That's a bit weird. They're going to find the homeless and they're picking them up. He said they're moving them far away from our nation's capital. Well, the problem is Washington, D.C. is not a state. Washington, D.C. is a city. We are not members of a state. We are a federal district. So we are a city. We are an independent city that is part of no state. I mean, part of the United States, of course, but not of a state like Maryland, Virginia, New York, et cetera, right? We're an independent city state in a sense, right? Even though we don't have the rights of states. All of Washington, D.C. is the nation's capital. If Trump says we're moving the homeless far away from the nation's capital, where is he moving them? To Virginia and Maryland? It doesn't even make sense. He then claimed, well, don't worry, we're going to put them in facilities to take care of them and this kind of crap. And basically, when the White House was pushed on it, they had no answers. It sounds like they're just picking people up and dumping them somewhere else. And lying about getting them services and this kind of stuff. It's really, although I will say this, correct, Tap, knowing Trump, I would not be surprised if they dumped them in Maryland or Virginia. I would not be surprised, right? Knowing Trump, actually, it wouldn't be Virginia. Well, actually, here's a question. current governor of Virginia, Republican? Help me out here, guys. Maryland, Democrat. Is Virginia Republican? Because Virginia goes back and forth. But if so, it's a Democrat in Virginia? Wait, which one? Okay, yes doesn't help. Youngkin. It is still Youngkin. Okay, it's still Youngkin in Virginia. Is it still Youngkin? Because Virginia only goes like 2 years, I think, and is it 2-year term and then they can't run again? It's really, Virginia is very difficult to keep up with because they're always having new elections and they can run again. They can't run consecutively in Virginia. So they have 2 years, they've got to leave and then come back. So right now it's Youngkin still. Okay. Virginia has a Republican governor. He's not going to dump them in Virginia. Maryland has a Democratic governor. I'm 99% sure they're going to dump him in Maryland. That's where he's going to send. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say that's where he's going to send them. There's a very good guess that would be something he might do. Okay. In any case, so you've got that. I think, like I said, just the language here. Trump urged homeless people living in Washington to move out immediately. He writes online, all capital letters, the word immediately, but in all capital letters like he's screaming at them. We will give you places to stay that are far, capital FAR, far from the nation's capital. Yeah, sure. And again, like I said, the homeless camps were ridiculous. I mean, I guarantee, I've done this stuff for a living. I guarantee you it was some liberal group that decided to buy tents for homeless people around the country. And that's a cute idea. It's very nice, but you can't go setting up tent cities in the middle of American cities. You can't. It's not acceptable. And this is what happens as a result. You finally get people like Trump who take over and they go, and they rage. So in any case, Texas. So the Texas Republicans are trying to move ahead on their gerrymandering plan to steal the next election. They kind of moved forward today, but they didn't really move forward today. I would say in a way, there was no progress today really in the plan. What happened was the Texas Senate passed the Republican plan, but the Texas House still can't pass it because the Democrats are hiding. Let's step back and brief you on what's going on here, because one of the things that I'm kind of a fan of with the news is not always assuming that everybody knows what the hell you're talking about, because this stuff is complicated. So a couple of weeks ago, Republicans start getting worried because the polls are suggesting that they're going to lose control of the House of Representatives. Currently, Republicans control the Congress, Senate and House, right? The polls were suggesting they're going to lose or may lose the House of Representatives next year, November of 2026. And if they do, it really screws up Trump's agenda. So Trump orders Republicans nationwide and says, Republicans in Texas especially, go and steal a number of congressional seats from Democrats so they don't win the election. Do it by gerrymandering. So Republicans in Texas said, okay. And literally they're passing legislation to take away 5 Democratic congressional seats, which is exactly the number Democrats would get probably in the next election at this point. It's much more complicated than that. Bottom line is, don't let anybody tell you what the Republicans are doing right now in Texas is what Democrats have done. Neither Republicans nor Democrats have done what these guys in Texas are doing. No one has done this. And again, Republicans have never done this before. That's the question. This is MAGA Republicans. Republicans have never done this. Democrats have never done this. They're not supposed to adjust the seats in Congress, but every 10 years, 2020, 2030, 2010, 2040. Every 10 years, we have a census in America. We count the number of people residing in this country. That's the quote in the Constitution, residing. And based on the number of people residing in the country in each state, you divvy up the congressional seats. And you've got to divvy them up. Trump ordered Republicans to do it now, 5 years early. You're not supposed to do it 5 years early. It's not fair to do it 5 years early. Well, they're doing it 5 years early, and they're stealing 5 Democratic seats. No one has done this before. Republicans have not done this before. Democrats have not done this before. This is unique to Trump, and it's unique to Texas as far as what's going on. But I think it's important to point out, like I said, this isn't just Republicans. This is Trump Republicans. Republicans didn't used to do this. Democrats didn't used to do this. Nobody did. This is how, it's not just extreme, but it's Trump expanding the window of what's acceptable, doing stuff that's unacceptable that nobody would ever do, and going the next step and doing it, like violently trying to overthrow the government on January 6th, something you would never accept. And then pardoning all the domestic terrorists, right, from January 6th, just giving them pardons. No one would ever imagine somebody having the nerve to do that. Trump did it. He is constantly expanding this window of what is allowed in terms of, anyway, you get it. So in Texas, Democrats found a way to stop the effort to steal the votes by leaving. In Texas, you've got to have a quorum. You've got to have like I don't know if it's a majority of those present or whatever it is, but it's a quorum, basically. A certain number of members of the legislature have to show up, or you can't vote. So the Texas Democrats have all fled. A lot of them have fled the state, gone to Illinois, other places, and they're not there. So there's no quorum. Without a quorum, you can't vote. So the Texas Senate was able to pass the redrawn map, stealing 5 Democratic congressional seats. And by the way, literally 5 Democrats would lose their seats in Congress if Texas does this. They would literally steal 5 Democratic seats by doing this. The Texas House has that quorum requirement, so they can't vote. So the update is that actually the update today is Democrats are still doing a good job of stopping Republicans from stealing the election so far, but we'll see. Anyway, and I'm okay with it. Sorry, MBW says, how do you feel about Dems retaliating by doing the same? I think it's necessary. What MBW is talking about is Democrats have said that if Texas steals seats, if Republicans steal congressional seats in Texas, Democrats will go and steal them in Illinois and California. I don't know if they'd get away with that. Maybe. Depends on the state, depends on the politics, depends on the law in the states. What Democrats have talked about, which I do like, and again, this is because Democrats are good people, but Democrats have talked about stealing the exact number of seats back that Republicans steal. So if Republicans steal 5 seats in Congress, Democrats steal 5 seats back to basically get things back to where it was before, right? That's what they want to do, which I think would make a lot of sense. So if they're going to fix it, why not? The thing is that Republicans started it. MAGA Republicans are stealing seats in a way that has never happened before. No one steals seats midterm. Nobody gerrymanders in the middle of the decade. That's MAGA. Republicans don't do it. Democrats don't do it. That's MAGA. It's so inappropriate. It's so unethical. It's literally trying to steal the next, because they literally are trying to stop the next election because they know that the current polls show that Republicans are not going to win the next congressional election next year. So they're going to steal 5 seats. Again, nobody does this. Democrats don't do it. Republicans don't do it. Not like this. Not mid-session like this. Nobody does. It's MAGA, unfortunately. All right. More news. Oh, this was kind of Orwellian. Wall Street Journal reports today that the White House plans to conduct a far-reaching review of the Smithsonian Museum exhibitions. The Smithsonian is our national museum. It's, I think, 22 different museums. It even includes the zoo, Air and Space Museum, Natural History Museum, National Archives, what's the National Gallery, the East Wing, which is the new gallery, National Portrait Gallery. There's tons of museums. I think it might be 22 or so of museums that the Smithsonian comprises. Trump is going to conduct a far-reaching review of the Smithsonian exhibitions. This is a museum. Materials and operations to ensure that they align with President Trump's interpretation of American history. President Trump's interpretation of American history. I mean, what if Joe Biden did this? What if Joe Biden said, we're changing all the museums and they're going to align with Joe Biden's, or even better, Kamala Harris, because, they really don't like her because she's a twofer, right? Kamala Harris's vision of American history. Yeah. Very scary stuff. The Federal Reserve. So this is kind of funny. So hold on, adjusting my air here. So Trump went all taco, big surprise. Trump is going all taco again today. You might remember how last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think it was actually, Trump said that he wasn't going to fire the Federal Reserve chairman. Remember, he was going to fire him, then he wasn't going to fire him, then he was going to fire him, then he wasn't going to fire him, then he was going to fire him, then he wasn't going to fire him. Now he's going to fire him again. A couple points. I'm going to tell you the details. A couple points here. One, not very helpful for a president to be such a flip-flopper, to be so lightweight that he changes his mind every week. It makes you look weak. It doesn't just make you look weak. It is weak. It's not, you don't want a president that literally, there's no position he holds other than, things that are bigoted or something, that there's no position he holds that he's going to change. He changes everything. So he's changed again. A couple of weeks ago, the markets every time Trump goes after Powell, which is a Federal Reserve chairman, the markets flip out. The stock market flips. Why? Federal Reserve has a lot of jobs, but their probably most famous job is regulating interest rates. So regulating interest rates, which affect a lot of things throughout the economy, right? But the main impact of interest rates, I would argue, is economic growth, unemployment, and inflation. We've talked about this before, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but a little bit of detail probably is helpful. Because of the tariffs, we are at risk of inflation. All right? The Federal Reserve was going to lower interest rates 4 times last year. They only did it 3 times because of Trump tariffs. They were worried about inflation. They were going to lower interest rates 2 times. This is what the market had predicted. The Federal Reserve was going to lower interest rates 2 times this year. They have lowered interest rates 0 times this year because of Trump's tariffs, because they're afraid of inflation. What happens when you lower interest rates, which Trump is demanding? It gives a big boost to the economy. Oh, yeah. And Trump wants a big boost to the economy. He wants to be able to say, look at the Trump economy. It grew 5% a year, right? And that's true. It would. The problem is, you don't just want, otherwise, right? That sounds like a good thing. Why wouldn't we just always cut interest rates to 0, lower them 100%, and let the economy grow? Why not? Well, because it can lead to massive inflation. Interest rates are the way you control inflation. And inflation, obviously, very important thing to control. As we all know, inflation got really bad the last 5 years after COVID, 4 years after COVID. Trump is demanding the Federal Reserve lower interest rates massively. If they do that, inflation is going to skyrocket, right? And the Fed is afraid with Trump's tariffs that inflation is going to go out of control if they lower interest rates. So they've been refusing to lower them. Trump keeps threatening to fire the chairman of the Fed, and then the stock market freaks out and he backs off, and then he does it again. Why does the stock market freak out? Well, if you're investing in America, well, let's give one example. Bonds, right? Or treasury bonds or treasury bills, whatever they're called. But basically America's debt. We run a deficit every year, a huge, like $1 trillion or so. Our deficit's huge, right? We have $1 trillion. We spend $100 trillion more than we take in every year. Okay. And where do you get that money from? I mean, literally, the government spends $1 trillion more than it makes from taxes and stuff. It's got to get that trillion from, it can't just print money. Where does it get? I mean, it can, but it doesn't just print money. They get that from selling treasury bonds. Well, if you're going to buy like a treasury bond that has a yield on it or whatever, and the yield is, basically it's an interest rate. You buy the bond, you get a 4.5% interest rate. So every year you get 4.5%, and eventually you get your money back. Eventually you get the bond. It's like actually, you know what? Kind of like a savings bond is almost, I think for Americans at least, that's a nice way of thinking of it. Those of us who grew up with savings bonds, that you buy it. Now, saving bonds, you actually spent less, but let's pretend you just spent the full amount. You buy a $25 bond, you pay $25, you get 4% a year. And as long as you hold the bond, you get 4% a year. And then when you want to get your money back, you say, I want my money back, and you get your $25 back. But if you don't take your $25 back, you get 4% a year. That's how we get money to pay for our debt, how we pay for our budget. Well, if you're, and this is complicated, but you'll get this. This isn't that hard. If you are an American or a foreigner looking to buy American treasury bonds, right, or treasury bills, where you'll help finance our debt, why would you buy them? Well, you'd buy them if you think the yield is enough. Like if you say, you know what, I wouldn't mind getting 4.5% a year, right? Right. I'll buy American treasuries. I'll get 4.5% a year interest. That's not bad. Well, 4.5% interest is pretty good. If inflation is under 4.5%, right? What if inflation's at 5%? Do you really want to be locked in at 4.5% if inflation's at 5%? Thank you, Rocket. Then you're losing money, right? Every year, prices are going up 5%. You're only making 4.5%. You're literally losing money each year. That's why inflation matters. That's why people who invest in the stock markets, people who invest in our treasury bills, treasury bonds, want to know what's really going on with the American economy. What's really going on with inflation? Am I getting enough return for my money? Again, I'm probably using some of the wrong terms. I'm always bad with the terminology, but the concept I know is correct, which is inflation impacts how much money you make. And in order for you to determine if the investment is worth it, if it's worth investing in America, if it's worth helping us finance our debt, you need to know how much money you're getting back, and you need to know what inflation's doing, because maybe it's just not worth it if inflation's too high. Maybe you don't invest in America at all. Maybe you invest in Europe. If Trump screws around with inflation and sends inflation through the roof by firing Powell, people aren't going to want to invest here. If Trump replaces Powell with a political appointee, somebody who's a Trump sycophant, who doesn't lower and raise interest rates based on inflation, based on unemployment, based on what's best for the economy, but they raise and lower interest rates based on what Donald Trump demands, are you going to want to invest in America? You're going to say, I don't trust the American economy. I don't trust that inflation will be under control because Donald Trump put somebody in power who doesn't care about inflation, right? It's a complicated issue, but bottom line is investors in America, whether they're people like you and me, whether they're foreigners, whether they're foreign governments, they want to be able to trust that the American economy is free. It doesn't have the government involved in it, right? That bodies like the Federal Reserve will make smart, intelligent, objective decisions about inflation. And with Trump doing what he's doing, they don't know that. And they're going to be afraid to invest in America. So Trump said today he's considering suing federal. By the way, Epstein. A lot of this is Epstein. A lot of everything we're talking about today is all Epstein. Trump's trying to change the topic, and he's doing a good job because he's doing so many crazy things. But it's Epstein. Trump says he's considering suing the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. This comes after Trump posted on Truth Social earlier in the day that he's considering allowing a major lawsuit against Powell to proceed. I am considering allowing a major lawsuit against Powell to proceed because of the horrible and grossly incompetent job he has done in managing the construction of the Fed buildings. Oh my God. This is a lie. And the worst part, it was exposed on TV 3 weeks ago. So do you remember when Trump was pissed at the Powell last time, like 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, Trump's pissed at Powell. And he goes for like a tour, an impromptu tour or something of some new building, the Fed's building. And he goes, and there's video. The video is great. Trump goes, you spent $3 billion on these buildings. They cost a lot more than they should have. You did a very bad job. And he's going like this. And Powell goes, no, he didn't. Oh, yes, we did. You did. I've got it here. Powell goes, no, he didn't. Trump goes, I've got it here. Powell goes, can I see that? Trump goes, yeah. Yeah, first mistake. Gives it to Powell. Powell goes, that's a building we built 5 years ago. You're talking about a building that was built 5 years ago. And Trump goes, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It is like a scene out of The Office. Yeah. Trump didn't know what he was talking about. Either his staff screwed up, or more likely, Trump read the memo wrong, right? So Trump claimed Powell was building these offices that are costing too much. He's talking about an office that was built 5 years ago. By the way, 5 years ago was Trump's first term, so it was Donald Trump's responsible for it. And now Trump is suing, or thinking of suing, Powell for the office from 5 years ago, claiming it's being built now and costing too much money, even though it's from before. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Milko, for the gifts. Yeah, you know. That's our boy. So this is interesting too. This story I'm going to mention because it gets into the fascism thing, and it gets into really the danger Trump poses for the U.S. economy again. Republicans used to be very anti-socialism and communism. They didn't like governments doing a planned economy, and that's what Trump is now doing. Trump called for Goldman Sachs to replace their chief economist today. Again, he's publicly calling for Goldman Sachs to replace their chief economist. This is after he called for Intel to replace its chairman. He called for, he forced NVIDIA and AMD, semiconductor, chip companies, to give a royalty, 15% bounty to Trump and the administration. If they want to sell chips in China, they've now got to give 15% of their money to Trump and company, which, by the way, anybody who owns stock in NVIDIA or AMD, Trump just took some of your stock price. He took money out of your stock. I mean, this stuff has real life implications for Americans, right? His tariffs are literally taking money from companies that you invest. If you own stocks, he is taking money from the company you invested in, and he's depressing the stock price compared to where it would be otherwise. That is literally taking money out of your pocket. I mean, these things have consequences. Well, he ordered Goldman Sachs today to fire their chief economist, and the reason is hilarious. So anybody who's paying attention, you may remember the other day that I mentioned how a lot of the tariffs so far, companies have been eating the tariffs, meaning if prices go up 25%, a lot of the American companies have been basically saying, well, instead of raising the price of American goods, we're going to eat it. So we're going to let it eat into our profits, right? So a company like Costco or whatever, they're trying to basically cut their profit. If, let's say, something they buy from abroad goes up $10, rather than raising the price $10, they're trying to cut their own profit by $10. Okay, so that's what they're trying to do. Eventually, they won't be able to do it anymore. There's a couple issues here. Any company that's a public company with stock, that $10 comes out of the profit of the company, so that the company is less profitable. That means your stock is less profitable. 2, if you work at that company, your company now has less money. If your company has less money, at some point they could fire you. They could have to let people go, right? Anyway, the little bit more here. So Trump is pissed off because the guy at Goldman Sachs and his team found that U.S. consumers had absorbed 22% of the tariff cost through June. In other words, up until June, companies had only passed 22% of Trump's tariffs as price increases, as inflation to consumers, but will eventually absorb 67% if recent tariffs follow the same pattern. So what they found was at Goldman Sachs was that prices are going to go up 67% on average if Donald Trump goes ahead with what he's doing. Trump got pissed off, and Trump now wants the guy fired because he's telling the truth. This stuff is so dangerous. And again, Republicans used to care about getting involved with the economy. Conservatives. So Republicans are trying to kill gay marriage. That was kind of a nice thing. This story is kind of wild. So 2015, Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage was a constitutional right in America. And the certain Republicans have been trying to basically get that struck down, like they did Roe v. Wade. They got abortion outlawed. They killed the right to an abortion in America. That right is gone. There is no more federal right to an abortion. And they're trying to strike down gay marriage. Now, what's interesting is the woman doing it, the lead activist who's trying to get this case to go to the Supreme Court. And I mean, it has gone to the Supreme Court. The question in a few months is whether the Supreme Court takes the case. We'll know maybe in October. The lead activist, this Kim Davies woman, is a woman back in 2015 in Kentucky who refused. She was the county clerk or whatever in Kentucky. And when the Supreme Court legalized gay marriages or marriages of gay people, she said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to stamp the marriages of these couples. Well, the couple sued and said you can't do that, and she lost. And then she said things. They sued her for defamation. Bottom line is she owes $360,000 now, and she's not very happy. So she's trying to go to the Supreme Court, and as part of her lawsuit, she's trying to not just get the money thrown out, the $360,000 she owes, but she's trying to get gay marriage thrown out, that the right for gays to be married to get thrown out in America, right? This woman, Kim Davies, guess how many marriages she's had? 4. She's had 3 divorces. Guess how many kids out of wedlock? 2. I don't have a problem with her being divorced. I don't have 3 times. I don't have a problem with her being married 4 times. I don't have a problem with her having 2 children out of wedlock. All that's fine. But I'm not running around proselytizing about how holier than thou I am about marriage morality, right? Saying how I know, that you get what I'm saying. She's claiming to be a marriage purist, that she believes in the sanctity of marriage, when in fact she believes in the sanctity of 4 marriages and 3 divorces and 2 kids out of wedlock, which again, that's not that unusual nowadays, but it is unusual for somebody who's a Christian conservative activist, whose number one Christian conservative activist cause is marriage, the respect for marriage. It's total hypocrisy. So anyway, that's Kim Davis. Finally, a couple of Ukraine stories. Trump and Putin are going to meet in Anchorage. Here, this is interesting. Trump and Putin are going to meet in Anchorage for their summit on Friday. But Trump has now twice said, looking forward to meeting Putin in Russia. Trump has twice said he's going to Russia to meet Putin, not Anchorage, Alaska. Either he's not well, or he's letting slip the fact that he is in fact going to Russia. And he may be. He may be. The other little sort of small point about this is Rubio, our Secretary of State, said in an interview in the last day, and I think he's wrong, but it was interesting that he said this. Rubio claimed in the last day that Russia has lost 60,000 Russian troops died in Ukraine last month, he claimed. He says 60,000. I mean, the last month the Russians lost, I think in July, they lost 60,000 Russians. Not lost like missing in action, like dead. Questioner, yeah, dead. Rubio, 60,000 in 1 month. If you think about it, I think in Iraq it was a fraction of that we lost, and that was terrible. Imagine 60,000 in a month. Yeah, in Iraq it was like 80 a month, I think. I mean, he ought to know this. Like, he ought to know it wasn't just a fraction of 60,000. At its worst, I want to say 80 to 100 a month, maybe. He's wrong. I wish he was right. It's not 60,000 in a month. It's quite possible the Russians had, maybe a high-end estimate said the Russians had 60,000 casualties, which would be very high, but that would be like 40,000 injured and 20,000 dead, which would still be large, but it's more on that level. I mean, the numbers of Russians killed totally, I looked at the latest numbers. The latest numbers are around 1 million Russian casualties, including 300,000 Russian military killed. Because a casualty, remember in military terms, a casualty means killed or injured. So when you say, it's funny because for civilians, we think casualties and we think killed, but it means killed or injured. So anyway, actually, that's it. That's it for the news today. Oh boy. All right, let's hang out and talk. I'm going to adjust my cameras, my dinosaur shirt. It was funny. Somebody on Facebook got upset at me the other day. I was posting my TikTok videos I post on Facebook too. And somebody got it. I love the guy though. He goes, you have to love trolls because they don't really know how to argue. He goes, like I'm going to trust somebody in a dinosaur shirt. And I was like, you wouldn't trust somebody in a dinosaur shirt? Like, what's wrong with dinosaurs? There's something wrong with, now we don't like dinosaurs? Yeah, they've got them on Amazon. They're really good. There's a couple different vendors on Amazon though, so you kind of have to look, because Janice was talking about getting one for her nephew. I will say, I don't know which one here. As I always say, you can see for yourself. I don't know which one this is, but this one is very good material. It's held up really well. And I think it's a really pretty shirt. But I love that. Dinosaurs. I wouldn't trust a guy who likes dinosaurs. Why would that be? Yeah, exactly. Dinosaurs are now woke. Right? Like, okay. I'm not quite sure that makes sense to me, but okay. But I love it. Literally. And I was like, well, he also made a mistake because he goes, a guy with dinosaurs, I'll bet you don't even have any experience in foreign policy. Okay, and I admit I might have been a bit heavy-handed in my response. I might have come down with I may have swapped him literally from America halfway across the globe. It's entirely possible. But yes, he made it. Not only did he criticize dinosaurs, but he then suggested I did not have any foreign policy experience. I won that fight. And then, of course, he changed the topic. And I said, wait a minute. You just lost the discussion on whether I have foreign policy experience. So now you want to change the topic? Dude. I said, I was a little mean. I can't say what I said to him because TikTok may think I'm telling somebody here. So I don't want to do that. But it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Anyway. Barney's purple. Exactly. What's wrong with Barney? Oh, man. Oh, my God. Oh. What would a recession realistically do? I mean, it's unemployment would be the big thing I'd be worried about, but it's not just unemployment. Well, stock market drops, unemployment skyrockets. The really big concern right now is oh, that was weird. The color. Oh, you know why? Because the light's hitting my camera. That's why. It's trying to do a white balance thing, but the sun is hitting my camera a little bit. So it's adjusting the white balance. We're still really worried about inflation too. Thank you, Wandering. Appreciate the gift. Keep the gifts coming, guys, on TikTok if you would too. I've got to look. I have to look for the, actually, I can put it on. You know what I need to do? I do kind of need, if I'm going to refer shirts, I need to figure out a referral thing. Yeah, for the shirt thing. I'm like selling some guy's shirts and getting no credit for this. But I'd have to pull up a link. Anyway. Now, okay, did somebody actually have the nerve to suggest whether I would be critical of Joe Biden? Thank you, Janice. Somebody actually suggested that in 2022, I would have never been critical of Joe Biden. You might want to talk to people who watch this show and ask them about my opinions on Joe Biden, especially when it comes to Ukraine, but also his age. You might be. Globzer, you are literally 1 millisecond away from being banned. So convince us why you're not a troll, because that was a far right, really bigoted thing and sexist thing to write. So if you're not a troll, feel free to say, I'm sorry, I'm not a troll. Otherwise, Ash, the Globzer person or Globzer is a sexist troll. So again, if you didn't mean it, then yeah, you're a troll. That's fine. You're gone. Bye. Oh, well, no, the person's putting out sexist comments about the French president's wife. And, you know, maybe with some political parties, it's funny to tell sexist jokes about women and make fun of women. I think it's not transphobic. I don't even think it's transphobic. It's, first of all, let's not make it an issue that you're going to lose on. That would be my first point, right? Let's not make this about trans issues when trans issues aren't doing well. This is my lesson for Democrats, right? Don't take it. The point is it's sexist. You're going to win on sexism. Don't make it about trans stuff because you're not winning on trans stuff right now. Sorry, but I always say, like, you've got to think of how these issues spin. But in any case, yes, it's sexist as hell. And some people think sexism's funny and making fun of women is funny. I don't. And I just think it's, like, we don't make fun of women. That's kind of gross. So, anyway, what else? Well, no, you can buy the shirt anyway, WC. It doesn't have to help the show, but I have to figure out, I have to go look at my Amazon orders and see which shirt it was. Cause there were several of this, and I kind of was looking around, and they're good. I've been impressed with my Amazon t-shirts. This one, the Ukrainian shirts the Ukrainian flag shirts have been nice. I've got some I've got some rainbow t-shirts. I gotta love the rainbow too. The rainbow thing cracks me up because people are like, rainbow. Like, now the rainbow's evil. And you're like, online, people are like, rainbow. Like, it's a rainbow. It's like, dude, it's a freaking rainbow. I think you'll be okay, right? Rainbows are woke. It's like, it's a rainbow. Texas Democrats, they're still on the run. We'll see. Still stopping the Republicans from stealing. Actually, that's a good. Now, rainbow dinosaurs, that's a good question, actually. Japanese prints. Oh, that's kind of fun, Emil, as long as you know what it says, so to speak. That's a good question. Rainbow dinosaurs. I doubt there's going to be anything. Although, I did look at unicorns today. Is DC safer today? Yeah, exactly. Let's look. Rainbow dinosaur. Let's just for fun. Rainbow dinosaur backpack. Oh God, they really are the goofiest. Nope, they're kids' toys. I want a rainbow dinosaur T-shirt. Let's see. T-shirt for kids. I like this toddler. I don't want a toddler's T-shirt. I want an adult T-shirt. Oh, that's kind of fun. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, there kind of are some gay ones. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, and I could get it in red. Hold on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, we may have my next T-shirt here. Oh yeah. Sorry. It's a T-Rex and he's spewing a red rainbow. I mean, not a red rainbow, a rainbow out of his mouth. Oh my. Oh, that's pretty cool. The only question is there's like two different colors. There's kind of a, I don't know what. Oh, there's red and there's cranberry red. I don't know. What do you think? Am I more of a cranberry or a red? I kind of think I might be more of a red. Am I more of a dark red than a cranberry red? I mean, dark red, you wouldn't see the T-Rex as well. You'd see him. Now you'd see the T-Rex better on red, I think. Even though I tend to like darker colors like this one I'm wearing, the cranberry might be a bit orange, but I worry that you wouldn't see it as clearly on the dark. The cranberry. I like the color better, though. Yeah, I'm a little worried that the red looks orange, but it's hard to tell. Blue looks good. I do think blue looks good on Greeks. I will say red looks good on Greeks too. Yeah, I think I may go for the red. Oh my God, this is fabulous. Men's medium. I need to look at the size here too. How fun. It's got a lot of good reviews. Well, I'm going to add it to my cart. Excellent. Oh, that's fun. Okay, I'm glad we discussed this today. Actually, there's a lot of dino shirts. Oh, it's a dinosaur and a unicorn. Oh my God. Oh, this is funny. Oh, that's funny. Oh my, now that is pretty freaking funny. That's going to get me in trouble. It's a dinocorn, exactly. Hold on for you guys. It's a dinocorn. Oh my God. That is pretty funny, actually. I mean, it's a little busy. But it's pretty freaking funny. Well, what I like about it too is it's a little confusing, right? It's a little confusing. Blue, let's see. The blue's not bad. I still like red. The blue's not bad. I kind of like red in general, I have to say. I know this is my home shopping network here. I don't know. Light blue, no. I'm not a light blue guy. Although light blue for the motif is good. I still think I would get. I'm still thinking I would try the red again. Again, it's either that light red, the orange red, or the dark red. I almost think the orange red. I don't know. They both look good. The orange red. First of all, it's hard to tell because the color is never going to be exact. The orange. Both of these are pretty damn good, though. You think blue's less busy? I mean, it does stand out on the blue too. You know? Yeah. I mean, it does stand out in blue. This is true. This is true. I just sort of like reds. You know, I just think red's a fun color. One of each. Yeah. Boy, this is a tough one. This is a tough one. I don't know. The blue's not bad though. Alt accounts? No, I've got a backup account on TikTok and that's it. And it's an obvious backup account because it like links to me and I link to it. The blue, now blue, I'm not as much of a blue guy, I will say. That's the thing is I'm more red. Like I think red's more fun. I've always liked red better. It's a more fun color. I know we're like shop. You're all helping me shop today. Get red later. You people like spend a lot of money. I like get blue and then get red later if you like it. Is that like does your spouse like what does your spouse tell you? Could you? If I were married to you, I'd kill you. I'd be like, wait, you're gonna buy two? Just buy two. Yeah, but which color? Like we said, maybe I'll do blue. If I do red of the other one, I could do blue on this one. That is an insane t-shirt though. That is that's like a pride t-shirt. All right, I'll put this one in the men's I'll put this one in the blue. I know blue looks good. Blue and red both look good on me. But anyway, that is funny. Those are very nice though. I like those. Those are very nice. All right. Well, we'll have to see. I'm going to leave them in my cart and think about them. So, you're funny. Buy two. What do you mean buy two? Hold on. And it keeps getting hot and cold. And she's on the move. Dog is on the move. California. I thought California Dems had to sort of get with it like now. I thought they only had 5 days to make up their mind if they were going to do anything on the gerrymandering stuff. I will say in the past, when I found clothing I've liked, I have rarely bought multiples, and I should have, because you find something that fits you well and looks good, and good luck finding that again, I did see that Newsom gave his final notice. Let's see what they do though. Yeah. Is Washington D.C. being sold off? That I don't know. Warm now. See, now it's getting warm because the sun, I'm like by the window and it's like, woo. Anyway, virtual vote with the people of California. Interesting. God, I hope they don't go back. Well, let's see. Anyway, well, then California hopefully can fix it. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know well enough if they can, but hopefully they can. Anyway, that's really funny though. Rainbow dinosaurs and rainbow unicorn a T-Rex, a unicorn riding a T-Rex. I've got to wear that one to Pride next year, actually. A unicorn wearing a unicorn riding a T-Rex. Too funny. Yeah, well, the problem is you don't know how they fit. I mean, I got that Star Trek shirt too that has the rainbow behind it. That one's a really nice. It's funny. It's too itchy, but I never wore it. It was too itchy. And then once I washed it a few times, it suddenly got comfortable. So I was like, okay, my mistake. So, anyway, ooh la 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 la. Ooh la 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 la. What else, guys? What else? I mean, yeah, I don't know what in California, supposedly they only had 5 more days. I think California's too late right now, but they've got until the next election probably to do, well, maybe not the next election. They've got to do this before the next election. Yeah, the screen is like hitting just because the dog wanted to go out, so the curtain's moving, and it's just enough for the sun to hit. Well, it's hitting my camera here, which is annoying, but it's just enough to hit you guys too. It should be better now that I moved you on Discord, on TikTok. Anyway, so yes, fridge is coming on Thursday. Damien's going to come tomorrow and help me clean a little. We're going to try to go tomorrow. A guy I know here in town opened up a Greek ice cream store in Georgetown. Chris, I can never get Chris's last name. Is it Kefalis? I could never get his last name right. But he opened up an ice cream shop, so we were going to go and support him. But there were a lot of lines before, and we weren't in the mood for the lines. Good for him, but we didn't want to do lines. So we're going to try to go tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully we can. So yeah. Anyway. Dog. Hey, all right. I do not want you eating stuff. No. You want to come in? Sasha's been a little weird lately. She's kind of like she hasn't been very happy. I can tell. Like in the afternoon. I don't really know what Greek ice cream is, to be honest. So, parfait. Parfait. I was trying to think of what you were. I thought you were writing pare, like take a pagoto. Parfait pagoto. That's funny. A parfait. Exactly. Triceratops and exactly, Robert. Yep. I did see that. I saw that joke for the first time the other day, actually, about the Triceratops. That's very funny. But yes. Hello, you. You all right? Hi. Oh, licking my hand. That's always, you know how much I love when you lick my hand. Love that one. Your factory's on mandatory overtime? That's not a bad thing though, right? I'm assuming. It kind of sucks having it be mandatory, but at the same time, they're making you make extra money for the next month. That's interesting. Dodge Ram 1500. Wonder what that is. Are they trying to beat the tariffs or something, or what's going on? Huh. I wonder what that's about, Alan. Like, why? And are employees generally happy about it? Or are they annoyed because they got to work overtime? I'd kind of be like, for 1 month, get extra money? Yeah, 7 days a week. Ooh, for 30 days straight? Wow. Having said that, it's an extra week. You get 8 days extra this month. That's interesting. It's exhausting, but it's interesting. The problem is, of course, when you have kids. If you've got kids, then it becomes more difficult, obvious. A spouse might not be happy either, but kids especially. Hand is doing better. I'm doing my exercises every night. I have to soak it. I soak it. Then I've got a vibrating ball. Then I do the exercises. Then I don't even remember. Oh, then I have to massage it. Then I massage it every night. Actually, I should have soaked it earlier. I forgot to soak it earlier today. I at least do it at night, but I should probably soak it a couple times during the day. Well, that's true. If you have pets, that's a whole other issue. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Actually, you're right, for the weekends. But yeah, hand is doing okay so far. So, we shall see. Anyway, sorry, guys. Ben, thank you for the gift. So an interview of Abbott, the Texas governor, on CNN, Abbott says he's redistricting for Latinos. What are the chances Texas backfires and Latinos vote blue due to deportations? I don't know. I've not seen anything about that as far as polling or whatever. Generally speaking, Latinos have been getting more conservative. Latinos have been voting on social issues, right? So because they're very Catholic. So it sort of surprises me. It surprises me that Latinos tend not to care about the Republican Party's position on Latinos, which tends not to be a very nice, favorable one. I'm trying to say this in a nice way for TikTok. They don't like them much. And it always kind of amazes me that you vote for somebody who really doesn't like you as a people. I find that strange. Even if you're conservative, even if you're Catholic, they don't like Latinos. They don't like blacks. It's but blacks don't vote for them. Understandable, and I don't blame them, right? I don't vote for people who don't like me either. But the Latino thing always surprises me a little. But having said that, people vote with their pocketbook or their pocket. You know what I mean? So but that would be interesting if some of Trump's, because the thing is, Trump is having a hard time, not a hard time, but he's having a difficult time hiding his animus, put it that way, right? He's having a difficult time hiding the fact that this is about not liking Latinos, basically. I mean, he's done it before, but, anyway. Anyway. But I don't know. I'd be curious to see. Oops. Yep. I mean, Preston's pretty good, though. If Preston says the Russians made some advances, they probably did. I don't know. I'd have to see what Preston's saying. I don't know. But I mean, if that's what he said, I would trust Preston. He's very good. I think he's former military too. He knows this stuff. I'm sure he's former military. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway. Oh boy. La. Sorry, guys. Oh. What else? I'm trying to think anything else going on. Preston Stewart, he's a very good military blogger, basically. He's on TikTok. He's on Twitter, YouTube. Preston Stew, I think, might be his TikTok handle, maybe. I like him a lot. He's very no nonsense, very smart, no bullshit. I find him very objective. Like he clearly supports Ukraine, but he's not going to lie. Right? I mean, he's not gonna spin things for you about Ukraine. I like him a lot. Somebody Google and just see what his handles are to tell people. He's really good. But I think it's Preston, or on TikTok it might be, on Twitter it might be Preston Stew, because I always see that name, but I never know. I don't know who Peter is. Kind-hearted. Oh boy, so I'm gonna yawn at you again. Oh, Preston's great. Yeah. Yep. No, I do have to reach out to, I've got to reach out to the senator's staff. It is Preston Stew. That's what I thought. Okay. That's what I thought. DC, I mean, there were no FBI agents in the park where I was today. We were safe. Sasha and I didn't get mugged in the park, so all was well. Yeah, he's very good, very objective. Scripps News used to be a credible news source. I don't know how it is now, just because I don't know, but they were a very credible news source before. Now I don't know, because I don't really hear about them much anymore. Don't know. I know a lot of people on TikTok. Everybody in DC is posting videos, but I haven't seen any videos that are really showing any kind of a presence, like military or otherwise here. So anyway, last minute things. Otherwise we'll call it quits. But no, I mean, where I am, there's nothing, The DC Music Festival. Oh, I'm tired. A police presence at a protest. Yeah, I mean, whatever, right? But there's going to be police at a protest or whatever. That's, Israel, no idea what's going on. Netanyahu's being kind of an idiot, but, not my favorite person. DC is not as dangerous as they say it is. No, DC has always had a lot of crime. It's gotten better in recent years. So the fact that Trump says, "Oh my God," he's lying. It literally got better in the last few years. So if it got better in the last few years, that doesn't mean that's it. This is the straw that breaks the camel's back if things are better, right? That's when things get worse that you go, that's it. So he's lying. Having said that, DC has always had crime problems. I mean, this has always been this city's not safe. It's never been safe. And people who tell you, I think people who tell you it is are either lying or naive. For example, I don't feel safe walking around at night in this town, and I never have. Never have. I don't like walking my dog at night. I don't feel safe. That is not a good thing. There are other cities that are worse, like Baltimore and Memphis, right? But it is true that, I mean, I was back in Chicago several years ago now, but I was back in Chicago suburbs visiting my sister, and we were going to take the dogs for a walk, her dog and my dog, and Carmela, the wonder dog. And she was like, well, I'm home late from work or whatever. Let's go at 10 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm up at 10. That's fine. 10 p.m. So we take the dogs out at 10 p.m. and it's a suburban town. It's, kind of dark and quiet. I mean, there's street lights, but it's a suburb of Chicago. It's kind of dark. It's quiet. There aren't many people. There aren't people around. And I asked her, and I was like, is it safe to walk around? And she was like, yeah, what do you mean? I was like, well, it's 10 o'clock. It's dark and there's no one around. And she goes, yeah, there's no problem walking around. In DC, I wouldn't be caught dead. I don't like after dark. I mean, I take the dog out like 10:30, 11 to go pee, and it creeps me out. It's not a safe town, but it's not what Trump is describing, and it's better than it was. So that's what I mean. Like, he's bullshitting. Of course he's bullshitting. This is not surprising, But it bugs me because I don't like the fact that DC is, it's never been safe. It's never been a safe town. Yeah, Baltimore's worse. David, Baltimore's always been way worse than DC. It's probably, I'm sure it's worse on the list right now. No, I've always loved Baltimore. I think culturally I like Baltimore. I almost bought a place in Baltimore because I enjoy, and I've got one of my best friends there. Like, I like Baltimore. Detroit, no chance in hell I'd move to Detroit. But Baltimore culturally I've always liked. But Philly, you know what's funny? We went to Philly for my cousin's husband's birthday thing a year ago, I guess now. And I got that vibe in Philly. I got the vibe in Philly that I just got this vibe that I was like, it's a little blue collar. The town just felt blue collar to me, meaning I don't know how to say this. A little more poor, like not as much money in the town, and not as safe. It just felt a little less safe up there in Philly. It wasn't bad. There was nothing dangerous that I saw. I got a feeling, but who knows? All right, a little more. All right. Anyway. So as I said, DC, I like Philly a lot though. Philadelphia is a great town. DC has always had crime. It's always been a problem. I've never felt safe here, but Trump is lying about how bad it is. It got much better in the last few years. He's totally lying, but DC is not a safe town. So that's a whole other, Well, when I got mugged, I got mugged here in DC. They tried to literally to strangle me. It was 20 years, very bad, 25 years ago, but, and the police told me because I saw the kids outside the 7-Eleven, 3 teenagers, and it didn't seem right. There was just something off about them. They were literally hanging out outside right against the wall. It was weird. And they jumped me and strangled me. And they didn't want my money. They just wanted to choke. It was really creepy. They didn't go for my money. I couldn't breathe. They headlock, jumped me from behind, headlock, and I immediately couldn't breathe. I think once in my life I've choked where I couldn't breathe, like eating, where you literally can't breathe. I don't mean like I'm having a hard time breathing. I mean, you literally can't breathe. Like that kind of a headlock scared the hell out of me. And the police said to me, I said, I saw them against the 7-Eleven and I thought that's weird. And then I ignored it. And then I heard running behind me and I didn't turn around because I thought, I don't know. And the cops told me, the cops said 9 out of 10 times, people who get mugged or whatever, or robbed, basically got a bad feeling and didn't act on it. And he basically said, next time you act on it. And I do. Maybe you're a little more scared. What do you do? But yeah, but New York didn't teach me, because New York was safe. New York was safer than here. Are you kidding me? Like, when I moved to New York City, oh my God, I literally felt safe in New York City. 2 years, I forgot about this. Because I've been here 40 years. I have never in my life I felt safe in Paris, yes, but meaning in the United States, like in Washington, I've never felt safe. I went to New York and it was literally like, on the subway, feel totally safe. Walking home, I was living in Long Island City. There was a police station on the way home that I had to walk by, which was kind of nice, actually, walking by the police station. I'd take the subway home at 1:30, 2 in the morning, get off the subway, 2 in the morning, walk a block and a half to my apartment, very quiet block. It was safe. I mean, and in DC, I wouldn't be at 1:30, 2 in the morning, walking like the 2 blocks to my apartment. There wouldn't be a chance in hell of doing that. So yeah, New York was entirely. Now New York, I don't know if it's getting worse, but New York was pretty damn good when I lived there 10 years ago. DC, there's a lot of homelessness. Dirty, no. New York's got the dirt. Hold on a second. New York does have a lot of dirt compared to Chicago. DC actually does have a lot of dirt, unfortunately. There's a lot of littering in this, town. Very bad. Very bad. DC's, I don't know about a lot of dirt compared to other cities. You'd have to see, but there's a lot of, because my sister and my brother-in-law were visiting last year, and I was like, really? And then as we're walking to the hardware store, I'm looking at this. First of all, my brother-in-law goes, there's like a lot of litter on the streets. And I was like, really? And I'm looking around and I'm like, I guess you're right. And some guy drives by, opens his window, and literally has like a McDonald's bag and throws the McDonald's bag out the window in front of us. And I went, okay, I think you're right. Unfortunately, anyway. Oh, I know. Well, I'm going to move to Greece. I'm going to get my passport and move to Greece. All right. It's 7:20, guys. I'm going to go. Why did they do that? Because they're bad people. It is like something from the 70s. Yeah, very much so. I mean, the 70s we littered, and then we grew up. We matured as people, and we didn't litter anymore. But people still do. It boggles my mind when I see people do that, just throwing crap on the ground all the time here, all the time. Anyway, all right, guys, have a good night. I'm going to sign off. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, Wednesday, not August, whatever it is, but 6 o'clock Eastern, 1 day away from new refrigerator. And the fridge should come between noon and 2. So it should not interrupt Thursday's show. In principle, it shouldn't. So we'll find out. Anyway, all right, I'm going to sign off. As always, Discord, YouTube, and then TikTok. All right, guys. Discord, see you, Jeffrey and Penguin. Boom. All right. Oops. There we go. YouTube. All right. See you, YouTube. Bye, guys. All right. And then